Hello, this is Kaylin Mann, and this is Module 2, Assignment 1, Activity Critique. I chose to do a website called grammarbank.com, and it's over subject pronouns. So their overall activity is good. They distinguish singular and plural pronouns and include titles and names as well as non-humans. You can see this singular, plural, Mr., Ken, and then, my father, Cynthia, Miss Jackson, and then they even distinguish the cat, the weather. I like that they also included she and Barney to represent that these can both be they. They give a lot of examples and include the question format. So here's some examples, as you can see. I do like that they include questions. I don't really prefer, they don't have an example for question, so that would be an issue. But I like that they have a self-checker for the ESL students. That way they can go and answer them. Mrs. Chart is she is very beautiful. Just type it in. It has different ones for the questions. Is it too loud? And then it'll show you correctness, and you can go back and correct them. I also like, they do have an option for, you can re-quiz yourself, but it also gives you the also see. So I like that they include additional exercises. I clicked on this one, so it takes you to this. It's basically just an additional exercise that I like. They give you examples as well, and then you just write them in. So starting with what I don't like, the negative aspects. The activity is pretty basic. There's no communicative aspects at all. It is all individual work. However, it doesn't really include any opportunities at all for group work. It doesn't really, it would be cool if it showed you a sample conversation as well. Like questions and then answers. The main problem with the activity that I see is that this is just for beginners, but it does not include information about what the titles mean. For instance, my beginners, they didn't know what Mr. Ken was, Mr. meant, and also it includes, I think, Dr. Phil is a famous person. If they didn't know who Dr. Phil was, they couldn't say he, and plus they would only assume that doctor is male. Whenever I did subject pronouns, we had to, she is Mrs., Miss, but we had to go through of what Mrs. means because, Mrs. only has that title if she's married and female. Miss could mean younger, or it could mean not married. And then there's MS dot, which is unknown, you don't know if she's married or not. So Mrs. So it's just, they don't have that information here, and I think that could confuse, or I think it's needed, at least. They do have you and plural you, but they don't include that in the example in order for them to distinguish what you, plural, really entails. Here's, are you and Mr. Parker related? Are you related? But, it doesn't really specify, how. So they also have some typos, for example, lion is the king of the jungles. And for ESL beginners, these simple mistakes would confuse them and teach them the wrong way. Yes, they correct it. It is the king of the jungle. The lion is the king of the jungle. But, so it could be very, confusing, especially to a beginner learner, which is what this focuses on. So, How I would improve it, I would first make a theme for the whole activity. Something functional and more communicative with sample conversations so that they could practice how an actual conversation would play out. The reason for a theme is if they do not have a big enough vocabulary, this would simplify and also give them a set vocab to use, like vacation sites, sports, family, etc. For example, the theme could be introducing family or friends, or to friends, or vice versa. I would include what the titles mean and also include doctor as well, because my students, for one, did not understand at first the doctor could be male or female. I would also explain that we, you, and they entail. For example, we includes themselves as well as others, while they includes multiple people other than themselves. For the additional exercise, I would include different types of answers. Answering, for instance, have some writing, some reading, some speaking. I wouldn't just make it fill in the blank or rearranging sentences. I would also include some animation or cartoons to show examples and have them formulate or produce their own sentences or answer from questions given so that they have a visual as well. For example, if I included pictures and had them list 10 sentences about the picture so they can deduce by themselves with me, just guiding them through the picture. So yes, this is my activity critique.